The Sixth Axis podcast.
Hello and welcome to another part of our The Year According To series. As usual, I am your host, Kris Lipscomb. If you haven't listened to these podcasts before, these are a series of interviews that are going out at the end of 2015, where we talk to developers and people from the game community and people from TSA staff. The person I'm talking today is from that last category. It is one of our news editors, Tuffcub. Say hello, Tuffcub.
Hello.
He is here today to talk to us about how his 2015 has been and also about some of the games he's loved this year. But we'll start with TSA this year. I mean, you do a ridiculous amount of news, right?
Yeah. I had a look the other day. I've written nearly 3,800 items since I started.
That's a lot.
And it's been a lot this year. It's been really quite busy. Not the last couple of weeks because it's Christmas, but pretty much up until then. There's kind of a little lull just before E3, but it's been pretty solid the whole year.
Yeah, it has been a good year actually, because we're now that we're actually into the console kind of cycle again.
Yes. Yeah, I mean it's in the first year of the PS4 it was pretty quiet. There wasn't that many games because everybody was getting gripped to the hardware.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been a constant flow of games for everything, and you know we don't just cover the PlayStations and any PlayStation anymore. We cover pretty much everything. So I'm writing about indie games and PC games and Nintendo games and everything. Half the stuff I don't know what I'm writing about.
Yeah,
to be honest. But that's kind of one of the things you have to do when you're doing news. You have to try and make it sound like you know what you're talking about.
All the secrets are coming out now. Learning the true way TSA runs. But I mean, for you recently, it's been very boob news heavy.
Boob news is my favourite kind of news, I must admit.
Which I find interesting as a gay man. I find it interesting that you just love boob news so much.
I like it because it generates discussion.
It's always just like the dumbest, silliest news.
It is, and some of those Japanese games are just ridiculous.
They are.
And I just like the discussions that go on TSA and how people differentiate between what they think is entertainment and what they think is porn. And there's the whole discussion about feminism and all that kind of crap. But yeah, it's interesting because I actually really like the games which go out and basically say we're about boobs, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm quite happy with games which go say we're about boobs. That's straightforward.
Yeah,
it's the games where the boobs are in there for no reason.
I definitely agree. It's
interesting.
It's always just a question of intent.
Yeah,
and as you say, I think like if they're openly going, look, this is the game we made, and we made it because of these. Like Dead or Alive is
exactly
like Dead or Alive is huge. Has like if you look at it from a pure feminist standpoint, it has huge problems.
It has huge boobs as well.
It has huge boobs, but it's very easy to see that game is quite misogynist.
I quite agree, but you know, it's saying it's been misogynist.
Exactly.
That's its purpose. Its purpose is boobs, and but porn is exactly the same thing. It's it's there for boobs. That's fine. I mean, the big example this year was Quiet in Metal Gear Solid, who was wearing basically nothing.
Yeah, and that's weird, right?
Yeah, and Kojima basically said we would all be ashamed when we found out why she was wearing nothing. But she's wearing nothing because you made her that way. It's not for any other reason. You deliberately wrote the story so she has to have not much clothes on.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing which winds me up and gets me riled. And it gets our readers annoyed as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're writing like a game that is autobiographical about someone who walked around in a bikini a lot, that's probably fine. But if not, if you're writing the story, it's like you wrote this.
Yeah,
This was
exactly.
you.
And it's same for, I think, Cortana and Halo 5.
Oh, that was weird.
Isn't
Like, even as a
is she?
Halo fan, I was like, no, come on, guys.
Yeah, and it's weird because she's kind of naked top half, but when we go down below the, down to the Lady Garden area, as I like to call it, nope, no, nothing like that. It's like she's half naked. She's not naked. I don't. What's going on there?
The other thing as well is, if they hadn't come out and been like, here's the justification for it, no one would have made it. Everyone would have just been like, yeah, that's just how Cortana is.
Yeah. I mean, if she had just been a blank kind of, like a shop dummy model type thing, then you could have got away with it. But they actually came out and explained why she wasn't wearing much clothes.
Yeah.
That's just weird.
And the thing is, as well, there a lot of I'm a big Halo fan, but there are a lot of people going, oh yeah, but there's all these other AIs in the Halo universe that are like, there's a guy who appears as like a Native American and all these kind of different ones, and you're like, yeah, and that's very true. There's literally one who appears as just like a black box because it thinks it creeps humans out, which, to be fair, it fucking would. If there was like a hyper intelligent black box talking to you all the time who knew your every movement, that would be super weird. But it's like, that's not the one that's in your game.
No,
the one that's in your game is the like semi-naked lady.
Yeah, but as I said, it's an ongoing. It's not a discussion. It's an ongoing theme within gaming.
Yeah, particularly this year.
Yeah, but it brings viewers to the sites, as I am fond of saying behind the scenes. Tits do indeed mean hits.
Yeah,
and our comments go through the roof when there's breasts. So
it's very true.
But to be honest, it's quite interesting. There isn't a male equivalent of it. I mean, the closest we got this year was Hot Ryu from Street Fighter, and he's fully clothed.
Yeah. You don't really like.
Yeah, well, it's probably because when you get the hulking barbarians or something, they're all armored and for whatever reason. Whereas a lady barbarian is normally, two saucers and a bit of string on her tits.
I guess, like, Drake sometimes is...
Doesn't get his shirt off, though.
No, not really.
That's an interesting
weirdly
fact.
Tucked in all the time. Like, for
Drake...
all the activity he does, you think his shirt would come untucked more frequently.
Drake has never had his shirt off, which
he's
personally I find quite disappointing.
He's somehow always got the perfect, like, half tuck going on. Like, regardless of what he's been up to, he's like been scaling a cliff face, and he gets to the top and his shirt's still like got the half tuck going, that doesn't seem right.
Maybe they'll fix that for Uncharted 4.
That's the power of the PlayStation 4 to correctly render his abs. It's the problem. It's the real issue in gaming today. Well, what else have you... I mean, you do a little bit of reviewy stuff as well.
Yeah, I kind of get thrown the weirder stuff.
You do.
And there's a lot of weird PSN games and a lot of Vita games, to be honest, because I don't think many of the staff have Vita these days. But yeah, I've done some bits and pieces. Baboon is one of the weird ones which is stuck in my memory, which was a PlayStation Vita game, which was a bit like Rainbow Islands. So I quite enjoyed that one. And recently, Super Beats, which I talked about on the podcast a while back. That was another good Vita game. I'm happy with them. If someone throws me a pixel game, I'm.
You're never pleased with that. You don't like it.
No. Fortunately, that they've kind of died down a bit now. It's kind of like the indie market is maturing slightly, and we're moving away from that 8-bit retro look, and it's at least going 16-bit. It's like the follow-up to, I want to say Miami Vice, but that's not what it's called. What was the
Hotline Miami?
Hotline Miami. Yeah, that's gone almost like 16-bit Commodore Amiga.
Yes.
So it's gradually moving towards a more aesthetically beautiful way of doing indie games. So I'm kind of happy about that. But yeah, don't give me indie games with pixels. I'll just
Yeah, that's fair. You just, like, people have stuff they like and stuff they dislike.
Yeah, I know there was one which was coming out. I haven't even seen it come out yet, but it looked like an Atari VCS game. I mean, it was 4 colors and just blocks, and that's just not what I want on my PlayStation 4. I know it's a horrible thing to say, but
No, that's
sorry.
perfectly reasonable. Like, you don't have to want every game released ever.
Yeah, it might be a fantastic game, but it just puts me off. I am old. I did all that stuff 20 years ago.
Like, I mean, you wouldn't particularly want to play, like, WWE 2K16, but I think it's alright.
Yeah.
Like, it's just different games. But talking of the games you've liked this year, one of the things we do with everyone is we ask them to pick a few games that have really stuck with them this year. And what's your first game that you have selected?
My first choice is the rather decisive The Order 1886.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that you enjoyed this, actually, when it came out. Not a lot of people did.
It has a common theme with all 3 games which I have chosen, in the fact that it's quite short. And for me, that's kind of what I need these days. I haven't got time to sit and play something for hours on end unless it's Destiny.
Yeah.
It's like I've had the recent Batman game, and that's been sat in a pile, and I've played it for a bit now and then, but I know I've played it for about 4 hours, and I've barely scratched the surface. And I don't think I can be bothered to go and play it for 20 hours or whatever and finish it off. I just want something which I can plow through 6 or 7 hours, done, nice story, looks great. So yeah, The Order was really good. I went to the launch event, so I got a review copy, picked it up, and I played it before Blair got it. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought the story was interesting, the shooting was fine. It looks gorgeous. I think it's one of, if not the best looking PlayStation 4 games. And yeah, I was quite happy with it being. I think I got through it in about 6.5 hours. That's fine. I'm quite happy with games being short. I would much rather that than dragging it out Assassin's Creed style for 25-30 hours. It's because a lot of the time it's Assassin's Creed. They repeat the same stuff over and over again. It might be a different location, but it's still chase this person or do that, and doing the same thing over and over again gets boring. So yeah, I really enjoyed The Order, and I really enjoyed the story as well. I like the little twist near the end, which is good. I even enjoyed the little QuickTime events which are in there because they're quite infrequent. So they didn't interrupt the gameplay in the way as they do like God of War. You're doing a QuickTime event every 5 seconds. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really well crafted, and just perfectly nice, good, solid game, and short.
Short is good.
Did you play it ever?
No, I didn't in the end. Perhaps because it was full price, right? But for the length, which for me didn't seem like a good proposition. But now that it's come down, I might actually see if I can get hold of it.
Yeah, the price versus length discussion is an interesting one because at the moment I'm playing Fallout 4, which I'm playing because it's Fallout. To be honest, I'm not really enjoying it. I'm just playing because it's Fallout, and I know this is about 100 hours plus before I finish it. But is it 100 hours of what I'm enjoying? Not really. No, I don't think so. I'm not actually enjoying it that much. I'm just doing stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You're playing kind of almost for the sake of playing it.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. That's it. It's like, okay, well, I'm playing it because I'm invested in the Fallout universe. I know I played Fallout 3 to death, and New Vegas, and all the DLC and everything. So, yeah, it's kind of I'm playing it because I kind of feel I have to. Whereas The Order, I played it because I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was just nice and good and neat. Yeah, and Destiny's kind of the same thing. I enjoyed to start off with, but now I've invested so many hours in it. I'm kind of thinking, maybe I should stop because I'm not really enjoying it. Not unless it's with doing a raid with everyone. The day-to-day grinding stuff is just a bit boring now. So yeah, I can see why people will put off at full price.
Yeah, I'm kind of weird because I want a game that's in the in-between. I don't want a game that takes like a lot of time, like Fallout or Destiny, because I just don't have enough time to do that.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't want something that is The Order, but then it's like £45.
Yeah, and I kind of agree 6 hours is a bit short. It could have done with another couple of hours. Until Dawn, for example, I think that was 11 hours when I got through it in the end, and that's the perfect length. But I think there was when you were playing The Order, you could tell there was an awful lot of work which had gone into it. I mean, it does look stunning. There's a section about halfway through which is on fire, and I just basically stopped playing the game and just fiddled the camera and slowly zoomed it around just to see, the graphics, just to see how fantastic it was. But yeah, I kind of see it at the time, 45 quid for 6 hours is a lot to ask.
It is.
It can't. Yeah, I mean, I can see the argument that it should have been about 30 quid, but.
Yeah, I mean, because we talked about Transformers Devastation a little while ago on the podcast, and we realised that was at a cheaper price, which makes it much more reasonable.
Yeah, I think it was 30. Well, no, it was an RRP of about 40 quid, so it was actually in the shops for about 30.
But the thing is, you'd think from like a publisher's point of view, you'd think it makes more sense because people are going to be more willing to pick it up. Yeah,
I think the pricing for The Order was perhaps Sony's. Well, I don't want to say fault, but it's someone higher up in Sony decided that rather than Radio Dawn, because I think Sony were kind of thinking it was going to be a bigger game than it turned out to be in the end.
I think part of the problem as well is you don't want, like, publishers are hesitant to make their game seem like it's a discount game.
Yeah,
which is an issue, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that. One of the other things you do, which is quite interesting, is that you are, in fact, helping make a game this year.
Yes.
In some regard. Because Blair, who left TSA, essentially, earlier in the year to go and work full-time on his game Membrane, has dragged you into the fray to do the soundtrack for it.
Yes, which, again, is something I kind of agreed to do without thinking it through. Which I seem to do quite a lot. So I mean, basically, what I normally write dance music. Everything I've ever released has been hands in the air, pumpy stuff with women screaming about taking you to the dance floor, and proper stuff to get you boogieing. Whereas what I'm having to do for the game is the complete opposite. It's essentially background music. So it's not pumpy, it's not hands in the air, it has to be quiet and simple and restrained, which is very difficult for me. My ex and producing partner, who I did the albums with, frequently tells me I've thrown basically everything apart from the kitchen sink in when I'm doing a track, because I just have so much going on. So it's been well, it still is because I'm still working on it. It's interesting and very challenging to actually work in a completely different way. It's very hard to describe it. It's kind of like if you were writing a sci-fi novel to then go and write a nice fluffy romance, it's just miles away from what you would ever do. So yeah, it's an interesting project. We're getting there. I think I've written 10 or 11 tracks now out of 19. So yeah, I'm hoping to get it all finished in the next couple of weeks, and then Blair can shout at me and tell me it was still wrong and needs fixing. No, we've kind of agreed a style, and that I got a very loose brief of a sort of Tronish, like a bit like it's in the Daft Punk soundtrack. So it's quite electronic, and I've sort of took influence from Blade Runner, Moonraker of all things.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's actually an old trance track which I really like, which sampled the Moonraker, the bit which Robbie Williams sampled. But they didn't get clearance, so they changed it slightly. So I've kind of used that as, I'm not saying I've copied it, I haven't, but I've kind of took Moonraker and that, because there's a level with. See, I almost revealed something, and I shouldn't say that. Yeah. That there is a level for which that
works.
Kind of, yes. It's weird doing a lot of chords, a lot of string sections, and a vast majority of it doesn't even have drums or percussion on it. So, as I said, in dance music, that's what drives it. It's a thumping kick drum and the percussion and a bass line, and I'm not using any of those at all. It's purely melodies and sweeping strings and things like that. So I hope it's going to be all right.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
It's yeah, as I said, it's kind of an unknown thing. It's a bit like I did. I jumped into it without knowing exactly how much I was going to have to do. And I kind of did the same thing a couple of years ago, because a friend of mine who's a producer in Hollywood, it was rebooting a TV franchise, which is Jerry Anderson's UFO.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what that's like?
I don't know that one. In fact, I know mostly Jerry Anderson stuff.
Well, it was one of his live action things rather than a puppet one.
Ah, that's probably why I don't know it.
Yeah, and it was they were rebooting it, and they were like setting up a concept thing and doing concept art bits and pieces. And he said, "Could I go and redo the main theme?" But they said, "Make it sound like Battlestar Galactica, the rebooted version of that. So it's all heavy drums and dark and menacing and really quite oppressive." I was like, "Yeah, I could do that." And at this point, I hadn't heard what the theme was. So a couple of weeks after, I fired up YouTube and sat down and played the theme to UFO, and it's like something from Austin Powers. It is the most cheerful, uplifting, it's kind of just the opposite of dark and oppressive. So yeah, that's kind of what I've done with Blair's game. It's like, let's just do something completely out of my comfort zone and do it.
But how do you find it, like, collaborating with someone who isn't a musician?
It's okay, actually. Blair's kind of given me free rein to do what I like, really. So I'm kind of just throwing him stuff and saying, "What do you think of this?" and bits and pieces. He's given me very loose briefs to work on.
He's Scottish, so he probably only really likes the Proclaimers.
Apparently, he likes reggae music.
That's weird.
I didn't know, but yeah, I did suggest putting a bit of reggae in there. There's it's okay. There's gonna be a little homage to a game, possibly for the last level in the music, namely Jet Set Willy. If you remember that.
Oh yeah.
Which has the Hall of the Mountain King on it, which thankfully was written about 200 years ago, so it's completely out of copyright. Yeah, so I can redo that. I don't know if that's going to go in yet, but that was interesting, completely redoing that. Yeah, so it's, as I said, it's it's a weird way of working and very much out of my comfort zone, but I am quite impressed at how well some of it's turned out. Some of the tracks I've listened to, I went, wow, that's really good. So, yeah.
What about your more personal music this year? Sort of projects that you've done for yourself?
I haven't done much this year. I've DJ'd a couple of times. I've just worked on tracks and bits and pieces for when I was DJing out. I did have my ex, as I said, my production partner Harry, who's he's the guy who I did the 2 Clubline Smashed albums with. He was over and we went out clubbing for one last blast because we're getting old. But there are plans afoot, which I can't say much more about, to possibly do another album on a different label. So we are discussing things at the moment. I can't say anything more than that. I've NDA'd myself because I don't know what's going on exactly. But yeah, hopefully I might have a new album out next year. I don't know. It's the music business, like the video game industry and like the film business. You plan stuff and it'll get cancelled, or someone will just disagree, and hopes and dreams are dashed. But something is in the works. Hopefully, can't say much more than that.
Well, that's fair. That's fair enough. In that case, as you've NDA'd yourself, let's talk about the second game that you've selected that you've really appreciated this year.
Well, we've already mentioned it. You'll be unsurprised to know it's Transformers.
Okay. But I'm not surprised. No, I'm not surprised at all.
I have good reason for mentioning the Transformers. Purely because it is Transformers Devastation is the best Transformers game ever. Purely on characterization, how the combat's done, how they've integrated the mythology. It is spot on pretty much every level. But the most important thing, which no Transformers game has got up until this point right, is they've actually got the transforming right. It's part of the game. You have to do it. It works, and it's so easy to do. It becomes second nature, just running around and then turning into a car and racing off somewhere. Whereas every other game before that, even the War from Cybertron games, which I really liked, when you're in vehicle mode, it's kind of like driving a slow hovercraft. You weren't driving a sports car or a truck. It kind of just floated around. Whereas this game, you transform and you go really bloody fast.
Yeah.
And you zoom around and you go really bloody fast, and then you turn into a robot and then you punch something. Which it's how it should be. It's really well done, and I'm so glad that there's finally a game which got it right.
I mean, that integration with like the transforming and integrating it properly with the combat, like you say, is really important.
Yeah, it's you can play it any way you like, but you do have to transform sometimes to get certain hits and certain combos. And the actual transformation is part of your kind of like super combo. So after you've got so many hits, a well-timed button press, and you will turn into whatever vehicle you are, or Grimlock is the T-Rex, and then you will attack as that vehicle, and you can chain that kind of thing together. So you're transforming in and out of robot mode and vehicle mode and attacking at the same time. So it's very clever, and I mean, hats off to Platinum. They did a really good job on it. And it's cheap.
Also, Grimlock, best game animation of all time?
Grimlock, yes. The interesting thing is they've made it G1, which for non-Transformers fans is basically Transformers from the 1980s.
Yeah, like basically like the cartoon.
The original cartoon.
Yeah, none of this modern guff.
No, none of this Michael Bay shit. So the models and the characters are designed like they were back then. So that includes Grimlock being, well, having kind of stubby little legs as well as stubby little arms and a massive body. So he can't really run properly. He waddles like a duck. And there's nothing funnier than being a high-speed waddling T-Rex and headbutting things. It's just joy, basically. It was one of my favourite things to see this year.
It was. It's fabulous.
It is.
It is. It really works. I don't know why. Well, it's just because it's very amusing. And also, like, it really undercuts this, like, fearsome warrior.
Yeah.
To see him waddling about.
Yeah, but that's how he kind of was in the cartoon. It's how he ran all the Dinobots. It's not how many people want Grimlock to be, but as it was a homage to the cartoon, I thought it was perfect.
Well, and the thing is, as well, when you think about the Dinobots, they are just fundamentally ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, even more so than all the other Transformers, which are reasonably ridiculous in their own right. But the Dinobots are particularly daft.
Yeah. I mean, not really robots in disguise.
No. It's not much of a disguise, if you like. That is a T-Rex.
Yeah.
It's not really blending in.
No.
I do like Transformers. We've talked about Transformers a lot this year.
We have. Yes, we shouldn't do.
No, not right now.
It's my podcast, so I can talk about it.
But it's been wonderful. I do like Transformers. You got was it Sludge you got today?
Yeah, I bought Masterpiece Sludge today, so he's finished off my Masterpiece collection of Dinobots, who are all sat behind me right now, looking magnificent.
Could be wonderful.
And they're not toys.
No, of course not.
They're collector's editions.
They're collectibles and statues, essentially. Fancy statues.
Fancy statues which turn into robot dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. So we've tended to focus on 2015 in these podcasts, really. But you've got a big thing coming up next year, which is Hawaii. You're moving to Hawaii.
I bloody hope so.
It looks like you're going to be moving to Hawaii, at least.
Yeah, I was meant to have moved there about 4 years ago. Okay, short version. The money needed for us to move there is going to be provided by the American military. So the budget for the army needed to be agreed by the American government. Now, it was almost agreed, and then President Obama made Obamacare a couple of years ago. And because I can't remember which one of these is right, but the Democrats hold one house and the Republicans hold the other house. And to get a bill passed, it needs to go through both houses and be ratified by both. So basically, Obama's opponent said, right, well, fuck you, we're not going to let you have any more laws passed through. And he basically became a bit of a lame duck president. So, so the money to provide for the school, which my husband is going to be working on, has basically been held up for the last 4 years, whilst the American politics just bitch amongst themselves. But they finally agreed the budget sort of middle November, and the money has been allocated. And they have started building the school, which my husband will be working on. So, fingers crossed. I have said this for the last 4 years, but fingers crossed we should be moving out next summer, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, the difference being is there's actual kind of movement this time.
Yeah, exactly. They've said our contacts at the embassy again said it's moving at last, thank God. Because it's been such a long project, but it's happening. It's been happening slowly for about 5 years, but there is movement, as you say.
Yeah.
So I will be moving there, and I will be doing precisely sod all, because the American government, lovely as they are, won't give me a work visa. I only have a residence visa. So
that's a shame. Can you not adapt it at some point?
Well, apparently after 2 years I can apply for a work visa.
Oh, okay.
But for the first 2 years I will have to spend every day wandering around a tropical paradise and sitting on the beach. So
it's a real trouble for you. It's a real problem.
It's going to be a hard life.
I know.
I think.
Dreadful.
That said, I'm kind of hedging my bets with some other music stuff, which I can do because I'm not officially working then. So
Yeah.
I will be doing bits and pieces, and I'll be writing stuff, and maybe even releasing some songs. But yeah, I'm hopeful that it'll be done. Of course, I shall still be working for TSA, but I shall be 12 hours behind you.
I was going to say, doing weird TSA stuff in completely the wrong time zone.
Yeah, I am. One of my plans once we get there is to start doing. I want to do some video content, so I want to change News Snatch into a weekly video thing. But I'm just going to do it on top of a volcano, just
but, I mean,
in the middle of a rainforest.
That's the thing, is that if you literally can't work, you can at least you can do that kind of thing because it's not paid.
Yeah, exactly.
So
well,
it's fine.
I wish it was, but
it'd be nice.
No.
Well, maybe if you do it very well, if you make News Snatch super awesome, it is just presented exclusively from volcanoes.
I think that will be a unique selling point. I think for our video content, the first ever news roundup broadcast from a rainforest, for example. Yeah.
And if you don't like a game, we can film you throwing the disc into a volcano.
I think I might just film it on my Kiki Beach, so I get lots of ladies with boobs.
Well, that's relating back to our earlier discussion. All right.
I think our viewers would like that.
I definitely. I don't think they'd object much. You need to do it as really like stereotypical Hawaii shots though, so it's like you just walking into shot with a surfboard, stuff like that.
Or wearing a hula skirt.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant. That's what we want. It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's talk about your third and final game. What have you selected?
Well, much to my personal disgust, I have selected an indie game.
Oh.
I know. It's Soma.
Okay, so you talk about Soma all the time. I know nothing about Soma. Tell me about Soma.
Okay, so plot-wise, I don't think I'm going to spoil much here. Basically, you start off in the present day. You have a car accident within about 5 seconds of the screen turning on. And basically, the next section is you going for a brain scan so they can see what's wrong with your head. As soon as that happens, the game flash forwards a couple of thousand years, and you are on a undersea base, which is seemingly deserted, and there's something very nasty running around. And the story takes you through various different bases, and you get to walk across the sea floor, a bit like you did in BioShock.
Oh, right.
Was it BioShock 2, I think you used to go outside quite a lot.
Yeah, I think because you're like the big daddy in that, right?
Yeah.
So you can go outside.
That's right, yeah. So it's kind of the same thing, but it is gorgeous and beautiful and haunting and terrifying in some places, but it really gets inside your head. Once you start playing the game and learning what's happened to the people and why the robots, which you occasionally run to, are a bit mental, that the story is really quite affecting, and as I said, it did actually affect me to the point where I was, I gave my husband a hug afterwards and recoiled from giving him a hug because I thought, oh, he's just a bag of flesh. That's actually that actually flashed in my mind because that's what the game was making me think. It kind of questions what it means to be alive, what is sentient. There's a lot of ethics in there. I'm making it sound very heavy, and it is, to be honest. That there is a point where you have to turn off someone's life support, and the game doesn't give you an option to leave, so you have to sit there and watch someone die. Now I know it's a video game, and I know it's the graphics aren't the best in when it's not on the undersea bit, but it's fully voice acted, so you get to hear this person gradually slipping away. And that bit was really quite horrific. And the end, I can't talk about the end, but the end is. Have you seen The Mist, the film?
Oh, I know. I haven't seen it, but I think I remember what happens in it.
Okay, it's the one where they're stuck in the supermarket and then there's all sort of grubbly monsters in the mist.
Yeah.
Okay, if you've seen that film and you know what happens at the end, that isn't what happens in Soma, but it has the same impact as what happens in Soma. It is really quite twisted and nasty, and it's not a happy ending. And after you've been through so much trauma and emotion afterwards, it's it's really quite upsetting. I mean, like, I finished the game. I think it was like 2 o'clock on a Monday morning because I was rushing through to get the review done. And as the screen faded to black, I was just sat here for about 10 minutes, just because I was so shocked at what had happened. Congratulations on the writing. I think they did a brilliant job with it, and I think a lot of people have been put off because they think it's like just a haunted house. Oh, there's a monster chasing me around bit, which there is, and to be honest, some of those bits are really bloody scary, especially when you've got surround sound on. But that's not what is good about the game. It's the story and the emotional impact it has. And one of my friends has just bought it and started playing with it, and yeah, he's equally. He's just coming to get back to me and going, what the hell have you made me play? I'd love it to be on PlayStation Plus at some point because I don't think many people have played it.
And it just continue to make sure everyone else gets slightly creeped out and has philosophical breakdowns.
Yeah, see, you're making it sound quite nasty. I mean, it's back to being wasn't an enjoyable experience, despite being emotionally draining and terrifying and heartbreaking. It was brilliant. I mean, just in the same way as a good thriller is or a good horror movie is. It's not perhaps a pleasant experience, but you feel satisfied at the end of it. And I don't think many games can do that these days.
No, I think that's fair. Not a lot of games do manage that, really.
Yeah, so I'd highly recommend playing it, but don't do it if you've just broken up with anyone or someone's died or you've lost your pet rabbit, or make sure you're in a decent mental state before you go anywhere near it.
Well, I don't know if I want to play that or not.
Yes, it's an interesting thing. It's hard to recommend in that it's quite hard going, but equally it's it's like 12 Years a Slave, the film. Did you see that?
No, but for similar reasons is why I kind of didn't see that.
Yeah, there's a scene in that which goes on for a very long time, and it is extremely upsetting. But it's part of the experience of the film, and Soma's a bit like that. It's upsetting and nasty and really quite depressing. But I loved it. I really did, and it's going to be my game of the year without any question.
Well, that's good. It's nice that you've picked.
I have, yeah. I've Fallout 4 is nothing big has really impressed me half as much as Soma has.
No, I've kind of been that way for a few years now. Like, AAA is fine, and stuff like I enjoyed Batman. Batman was good, but it's not. It doesn't have that same feeling of being just interesting. Yeah,
well, I think a lot of that is because everything's quite generic now. I mean,
yeah.
Batman, Assassin's Creed, I hate that even Uncharted. It's still...
Yeah, I was going to say Uncharted. Uncharted is good, but it's like everything's kind of coalescing a little bit.
Yeah, it's all kind of playing it a bit safe and by the numbers. And, like Assassin's Creed ditched the boats, which I thought was the best thing about Black Flag. I really enjoyed that, just sailing around and harpooning the odd whale. That was brilliant, and then they got rid of it. And the big games do need to take more risks. I mean, Call of Duty this year. I know it sold thousands of copies, but Christ. another sci-fi shootery thing.
I think they did more interesting stuff in the multiplayer though. By their standards, at least, like compared to other Call of Duty games.
That's true. Yeah, I suppose so.
But yeah, I think, as you say, like yes, it's another sci-fi shooter, but if you look at what they're doing, like they are breaking out of their formula. They're breaking away from what's worked for them and trying slightly different things. And that was kind of a real issue in the Modern Warfare era. In that those games are fine, but they got very stuck in a rut.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like the first Modern Warfare. I can remember playing that and being absolutely blown away because it was new and it was, it was something you'd never seen before. It was so bombastic and exciting and fresh, whereas it's kind of the same thing, and we're getting a lot of fatigue. Assassin's Creed, bits and pieces like that. It's even Just Dance, which I reviewed this year. It's like, well, it's there's nothing new here.
No.
And to be honest, that's why I've always kind of had a Sony console, because I do like things like Heavy Rain or Detroit. I am so looking forward to. It's even like Katamari and weird stuff like that. It's the weird stuff you get on PlayStation, which I really like, which Xbox really don't take many risks with. They went and bought they had to go and buy a franchise, so they bought Tomb Raider. It's just not really a big risk, is it?
Not particularly.
So weird stuff I like. I am looking forward to Detroit very, very much.
There's a couple of weird things coming on the Xbox One though.
That's
they did show off some unusual stuff at their press conference this year.
Yeah, they have branched out. I mean, like Quantum Break and what's that? Cuphead? That thing.
Yeah, the Cuphead looks good, and then there was like the thing that's set on the moon. Did you see that was in their E3 conference? And
yes,
it's the follow-up. It's the follow-up to something else.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Not the follow-up, but it's the next game. Oh, that's really annoying. I can't remember what that's called. Tacoma. It's from the people who made. Is it called Tacoma? Something like that. But yeah, that looks really interesting.
Yeah, as I said, they have kind of branched out recently, but you're still not going to get The Last Guardian ever on Xbox.
No, you're not.
So, which is out. Right, or going to be out.
So they say.
So, I was chuffed when that came up on E3.
Yeah. But also it is still very much like, we're definitely going to have it, we promise. Like,
definitely going to happen. No, it's got to happen now. The reaction it got at E3, there's no way it can be left to die again.
Oh no, it can't realistically.
It's got to come out.
No, it's just it got a little bit awkward for a while.
Well, it was the point where if it's not there at E3 this year, it was dead. There was absolutely no way in hell.
No, that's very true.
It could have been continued to be developed if they hadn't shown it then. And kudos to Sony for actually just going, right, here it is, straight at the beginning.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting approach, actually, just to be like, here, we did the thing. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the kind of marketing games has changed this year. That's actually something I was going to talk about in the news, because we've kind of suddenly, well, not suddenly, but we've moved away from the whole, here's a game, it's not coming out for 3 years, which is what Ubisoft do. Fallout was announced and out in, 3 or 4 months?
Yeah.
Far Cry Primal, I think, was announced, a couple of months ago.
And I think Fallout was going to be even closer, but it kind of started to leak and stuff.
Yeah.
So they kind of had to.
I can't remember. There was another big game which was kind of like, hey, it's out in 3 months. And I was like, this is good. It's one of the things I hate so much about doing news is just doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, Christ knows how many Assassin's Creed trailers I've posted in the years I've been doing TSA. It's hopefully Ubisoft are are learning from everyone else that it's better to have 4 months of hell yeah, here comes the game, rather than 2 years of here's a game and oh, it's out at last.
You really want them to take a break, but they're just not going to, because they can't afford to. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, see, I'm wondering where Watch Dogs 2's got to. That's
God knows.
conspicuous
Nowhere.
in its absence. It's definitely happening, but they're being very quiet about it. I think that might be one of the ones where they'll suddenly pop up and it'll be out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So,
I think they're kind of, based on what they've been releasing, I think they're sort of hoping that one of the Tom Clancy things takes off a little bit.
yeah, I don't think it will.
I think the Ghost one might. That looked actually like it could. I mean, it did also look a little bit like a Ubisoft generic open world thing, kind of very much in the Assassin's Creed mold. But I also think by making it more shooter based, that kind of gives it a different element to it.
Yeah. I mean, everybody was really excited for The Division when it was shown. Now, I think they've lost that momentum. Again, because it's, what was it, 2 years ago it was out?
It was
revealed?
the year. So yeah, it was the year before. So it'd be 2014 it was announced, I think.
Yeah, and
it's not going to be out till 2016. It's like an 18-month cycle.
Which is just
too long.
Too long to keep people interested. As again, especially when people are now going, his game is out in 3 months.
Yeah, unless it's something very, very, very special. 18 months is too long.
Yeah, I quite agree.
I mean, in their defense, that was meant to be out this year, but that would have still been 16 months.
I think always gets delayed these days, though. Yes, everything gets delayed.
That's very true. It's crazy.
And it's normally quite a long delay these days. I think it's Deus Ex got delayed 6 months, was it, recently?
Yeah, I can't remember, but I kind of I actually find that very interesting with Square Enix, is they do seem to be more willing to delay stuff. Because they're it's not going to be ready, so we'd rather delay it.
Well, Square Enix have always delayed stuff, but I mean, Final Fantasy was, Christ, how long that was delayed for. But yeah, their Western stuff, they've kind of took a more relaxed approach to, the Tomb Raiders and as you said, the Deus Exes. And I think Hitman was moved slightly, wasn't it, as well?
I think so, but that might have been to stop it competing with stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of, the industry's kind of evolving in that way, and it'll be interesting to see how VR takes off next year. Are you excited about VR?
I can't afford VR.
Yeah, that's the price is going to be the...
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's going to be really expensive, and I don't understand people, right, who are saying, because Sony have said they see it as a console level product.
Yeah.
They see PlayStation VR as like a console level product. And people are like, oh yeah, that's fine. You're like, really? Because the PlayStation 4 is expensive. Even now it's come down, it's north of 200 quid. That's, in my opinion, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I quite agree. It's gonna be a niche, very niche product to start off with. But if
they can get enough of a foothold that they can bring the cost down, then maybe.
Yeah, and if anybody is going to succeed, it is going to be Sony. I think Oculus is going to be a very even nicher than PlayStation VR, purely because the setup you need and all those little cameras and the space you need, because Oculus is kind of designed more for actually wandering around.
No, that's Vive. Vive is the one that's designed for.
No, it's Oculus as well. Oculus has got the two sensors, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it's not to the same extent that Vive does. Like, Vive is the one that's designed to move you around an actual room. Oculus has got the sensors, but it's still more sitting, like, not wandering around a lot, is what I understand. Because that's more like it's kind of head tracking and stuff rather than body tracking.
Yeah, I think they kind of scaled back the whole wandering around thing for Oculus, because there was a survey they did themselves.
Yeah.
Sort of in the middle of the year, and they asked people, how big is the room you're going to be using it in? Will you move furniture around? Will you have a dedicated
that was
VR
Vive.
room?
That one was definitely.
Was it?
That one was definitely Vive.
Was that?
Because they were I remember everyone being like, "Yeah, Vive have built all this cool like track you in a room type stuff.
Yeah.
No one's got enough space to use it."
Yeah, exactly. They was like, no, I'm not going to have a dedicated VR room. What the hell do you think I am?
I think the only reason I could see Oculus potentially gaining any traction is Facebook have a lot of money, and they have partnered with Microsoft, which is a good move. Yeah,
but it's again, it's selling it to the public. I'm not sure if Facebook can do that, to be honest. Facebook is very good at being Facebook.
No, yeah.
Facebook selling a bit of hardware? I'm not.
The thing is, I don't think they're going to brand it as Facebook or anything like that. But my point is more, Facebook have got the capital behind it if they want to. Like, if they want to sell it at a big loss and undercut the competitors, they could gain real traction. But the downside is they're only really going to gain traction in the PC market.
Well, they've always, not they've always said, but the guy who runs Oculus, whose name I've completely forgotten, he has said it is going to be a premium product, and it is going to be expensive. So I don't think they are going to go for, going to undercut people. They're working on the PC model where this is going to be a high-end product next year. 5 years' time, it's going to be £100 or something.
Which, to be fair, PC gaming is doing reasonably well at the minute.
Yeah.
It's going for a little bit of a boom period, so.
On the other hand, Sony have an install base of 30 million consoles now.
Oh, for sure. Like, Sony are going to sell. I would be surprised if Sony didn't outsell Oculus at least something like 5-1. Yeah. But I think Oculus have got the potential to provide a better experience.
Yeah, I quite agree. I mean, the whole processing power of PlayStation VR is still kind of an unknown quantity.
There's, the thing with PlayStation VR is there's a magic box.
Yeah, which most people don't know about.
It's doing something, no one quite knows what.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it must have a new processor or a new graphics processor in there.
No, what it's doing some weird stuff with interpolation and that kind of stuff.
I thought it had a new processor.
That's why it's kind of magic.
Oh.
I think maybe it has got a processor, but it's not like a traditional boost the power thing. It's doing a lot of image processing and that kind of stuff.
Right.
They're doing basically. So, from what I understand, it's doing some weird stuff with camera interpolation and some custom interlacing shit, and it's basically magic.
Okay, I can understand that bit.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Well, I am my bet for this year. Last year, my bet was Guardian was showing up. Last Guardian. My bet for this year is No Man's Sky is going to be a VR launch product. I'm going to be interested. Sure.
I'm going to be interested.
I am.
My question is just how much sway Sony have over Hello Games in this deal?
Well, Hello Games have been really, really, really cagey about any VR support. They've said they're looking into it, and if anybody's asked them directly, they've got no comment.
But on the other hand, that's the same if you ask most developers.
True, but only if they've got Sony breathing down their back. I think I'm pretty sure that it's gonna be a launch product, and Sony have a lot more of a hand in No Man's Sky than everybody knows, to be honest.
I think they'd like it to be a launch product, but I also think, based on the way that Hello Games have been developing and showing off No Man's Sky, I very much suspect that game is going to be ready when Hello Games say it's ready, and not before.
Yeah, I mean, it's out in June, though, which is when PlayStation VR is second quarter next year.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't expect it until June, to be honest.
I mean, also, I would be surprised if it launches in June, because then you're getting like an E3 clash.
But that could be a good thing. You know,
it's not a good thing
now.
because like it gets lost in the shuffle.
Well, we should see.
Like, as we were talking about with the rumours today that the Nintendo were going to launch the NX next June. Like,
yeah, right.
You don't launch stuff in June because A, you want people to buy it at Christmas, and B, if you launch like gaming stuff in June, it gets buried with all the other shit from E3.
But E3 would be a good place to show it off, though.
Oh, they'll definitely show it. They'd be idiots if they didn't show it.
Yeah.
But I would expect it to launch. If it's going to launch in Q2, like I would suspect Q3 and maybe like late summer, midsummer, something like that.
I think it's definitely going to be like a soft launch as well. It's not going to be a massive fanfare thing. It's going to be out, and then they gradually build up recognition for it. Anyway, I think we've talked far too much about PlayStation.
We have. That's a lot of VR talk. Well, it's been lovely talking to you today, Tuffcub.
And you, Christopher.
It's been very enjoyable. That's not my name.
I know.
It's been very enjoyable. If people want to get you on the Twitter, they can get you as TUFF Cub.
That's right.
That's how you spell it. It's not.
You can find me everywhere as Tuffcub.
Yeah, exactly. Just go and hunt them down.
Just don't Google it though, because there's some weird stuff which come up.
Don't do that. In my experience, don't Google the word cub. It's not.
Oh, I do that. Right.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Or it's fine if you've got safe search turned on. Anyway, that's good to do it for this entry into our year recording series. We will have more for you very soon. But for now, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
The Sixth Axis Podcast.